Hi, let me get me up here. Oh, let me replace batteries in this. I'll be back. Hang on. I have an extra battery in my room. Let's see if it works. Let's see. Not as. Yeah, I'm gonna get new batteries. I'll be back. Alright, good, I'm back. Got new batteries. As I'm putting these batteries in, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And also, happy Pride Month, everybody. I'm asking to, what if Palpatine was Anakin's father? No, remember, in the original, in the movies, right? Anakin had no father. But what if Palpatine was his dad? There we go. Plus, in the movies, Palpatine has like that father, like grandfather. Almost like if Anakin had like a grandpop. That's what Palpatine was most likely like a feel in the movie. Like Palpatine was Anakin's grandfather almost. Had that feel to it. But instead, what if Palpatine was his actual dad? Let's find out. And also, again, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Happy Pride Month, everybody, and let's find out. So again, in the original movie, in Revenge of the Sith, in the Clone Wars, Palpatine had like that grandfather like feel for Skywalker. Let's see if he actually was the dad.
Anakin Skywalker grew up on Tatooine without a father, and was raised by his soul mother Shmi. This was until Qui-Gon appeared, and became the father figure in Anakin's life that he never had. However, this was short-lasting, when he died by Maul's blade, forever changing Anakin's fate. Palpatine used this opportunity to step into the position of Anakin's father figure, and manipulated him from here to the dark side. But in this story, we'll explore, what if Palpatine told Anakin he was his real father? Let's start the story towards the end of the Clone.
No, this is basically what in episode, if you watch episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, Luke did a complete shock turn reaction to when Anakin said that I'm your father to Luke Skywalker. But how would Anakin react to this with your mentor, the person that mentoring you, since he saw you as a child, told you I'm your dad after all these years?
The war was going exactly how Palpatine had envisioned. The chaos of the war had successfully changed the opinion of the public on the Jedi, creating hate towards them, and changing their image from the defenders of peace to the enemies of it. He was close to his other goal, to shift the galaxy into a position where the people would be open to the formation of a galactic empire. They weren't there yet, but they were getting close, and had used the martyr of the Jedi attempting to take over to push his agenda forward. But for all of this to happen, a certain key needed to fall in place. This key was Anakin Skywalker. He needed the chosen one by his side, and his power to aid in Order 66, and to ensure the future of the Sith and his empire. He's been Anakin's mentor and father figure for years now, and together they formed a tight bond. But Palpatine wants to strengthen it, to ensure that Anakin will stand by his side when the truth is revealed. And he decides the best way to do this is to tell Anakin he's his real father, his only blood relative left. That Anakin has always yearned for the father he never had, and this void in his life has left him vulnerable. It's important to note that Palpatine isn't Anakin's real father, but will tell Skywalker this lie to assist in pulling him to the dark side. Ahsoka has just been removed from the Jedi Order.
But yeah, remember, Palpatine had like a strong father figure for Skywalker, so yeah. This is gonna be like nice. Oh, let me do this so that way it won't play the next thing.
and Anakin is at his most vulnerable and is in need of someone close to him. He calls Anakin into his office one day. He's just returned from a mission and was excited to see his friend Palpatine. They small talk for a couple of minutes until Palpatine sits Anakin down and tells him he has something important to discuss. He starts by telling Anakin he's sorry for not telling him sooner, that he's kept hidden the reason he became so close to him all those years ago, and the reason he's always felt a connection with him. He tells Anakin it's because he's his real father. Anakin's eyes go wide, unable to comprehend what to think. He never had a father. His mother always told him there was no one. How could this be true? He asks this to Palpatine, telling him that it's impossible. But Palpatine begins by telling Anakin a bit of history. He begins telling him about when he was a younger councilman on Naboo. He was part of a group that traveled to the Outer Rim planets, including Tatooine, to help free and relocate slaves. But on one mission to Tatooine, he met a beautiful girl who was unique and he shared many laughs with. He tells Anakin that this was his mother, Shmi. They only had a couple of days together, but to Palpatine, it was the best days of his life. He describes Shmi's home, her path to work, and the shop she worked in. Only someone who was there could know. A tear begins to drop down Palpatine's cheek. He tells Anakin his biggest regret in life is that they weren't able to free Shmi, and that he had to leave before they could try. Confusion has still taken over Anakin as he tries to put the pieces together. He asks Palpatine how he can be sure he's his father, who tells Anakin about how shortly after he arrived to Coruscant, he felt a connection to him. He had some early tests done discreetly that showed a match of their DNA, and tells Anakin he can view these tests if he wants. He did them multiple times with multiple companies to ensure the validity, but one thing was for certain: Anakin was his son. It's all starting to make sense to Anakin, but he asks Palpatine why he never told him, who explains to Skywalker that he'd just begun his Jedi training and didn't want to interrupt, but couldn't help but get close to him, and wouldn't have been able to live with himself if they didn't have a relationship. Anakin looks over the tests in which Palpatine's done, and they indeed look positive, but for Anakin's closure, he wants to do some tests of his own. Palpatine allows him to do this. He gathers the samples and sends them off to a biotech company on Coruscant for verification, but little did Anakin know, the owner of the lab where he sent the samples was under Palpatine's control, who manipulated the samples and test results so that they showed Anakin a positive result. When they were returned to Anakin, he was convinced that Palpatine was his real father. They met again, and Anakin's ecstatic about the news. He always felt as if something was missing in his life, and maybe this was just it. He feels completed. He couldn't be more happy that Palpatine is his father, and that he has some family left. He decides to open up to Palpatine about his other family, and tells him about Padme, whom he got married 2 years ago on Naboo, and lives with on Coruscant. Palpatine was forced to act surprised, but of course, he already knew. In the weeks following Anakin discovering this news, he is considerably more happy, and the people around him, Obi-Wan and Padme, comment on this. He told Padme shortly after, who was happy for Anakin, and believes that after the death of his mother, it's good for him to have his real father in his life. Anakin and Palpatine meet almost every day, and their bond continues to grow stronger, with them learning more about each other. Palpatine leans into Anakin's father figure even more, and spends time at his and Padme's home, slowly becoming closer to Padme as well. Together they discuss the state of the galaxy, the Senate, and the ever-changing Clone War. Padme always implores Palpatine to attempt diplomacy with the Separatists, but Palpatine tells her that they have done this countless times, yet the Separatists and Count Dooku always reject their terms no matter what. Anakin now saw Palpatine as his real father, and the Sith Lord had successfully leaned into the role. Palpatine reflects on how everything is going in his mind. His manipulation of Anakin Skywalker is going better than he could have imagined. He has successfully convinced the boy that he was his father, and because of this, has formed a bond that might be as strong as his one to Padme. This is important for Palpatine, because in the future, Padme will be Anakin's main tether to the light side when he decides to turn Anakin Skywalker, and if he's to steal the boy for himself, he'll have to break their connection. Their bond continues to grow, and they see each other very often between Anakin's missions. This goes on until the events of Revenge of the Sith. Anakin was distraught when Palpatine was captured by Dooku and Grievous, and the Chancellor used this event to begin Anakin's final descent down the dark path. He coerced him into slicing down Count Dooku in anger, and actively sought out revenge for kidnapping his father. Anakin didn't question killing Count Dooku when his father told him, because he trusts and will listen to him. He successfully saved him and brought him back to Coruscant, where Palpatine couldn't be more thankful. It was shortly after where Padme told Anakin the big news about how she's pregnant. Anakin couldn't be more happy, and he rushed to tell Palpatine, who seemed just as excited for Anakin. He vowed to end the war before Padme gave birth, so that Anakin's child could grow up in a peaceful galaxy. Palpatine obviously knew Padme was already pregnant, and had decided to use this to bring Anakin to his side. But Skywalker's mood changed the next day, after he had a dream of Padme dying in childbirth. The same type of dream that he had of his mother, and these dreams were being planted in his head by none other than Palpatine himself. However, Anakin keeps this from Palpatine, and doesn't want to jump to conclusions straight away, but knows if he can't find a quick solution, Palpatine will be the first person he'll console. He doesn't tell him straight away, because he doesn't think Palpatine could help at all. The next day in his office, Palpatine tells Anakin that he wants to appoint him as his representative on the Jedi Council. Anakin was ecstatic, as this would mean he would become a master, the title he always wanted. But his excitement was destroyed, as the Jedi allowed him on the council, but denied him the rank of master. Anakin's mood worsened after he was given a secret assignment from the council to spy on the Chancellor, his father, and report his dealings back to the Jedi. Palpatine's brilliance showed in this strategy. He knew the council wouldn't give him the rank of master, and because he made this suspicious move, the council would elect Anakin to spy on him. Two things which would successfully begin to turn Anakin against the Jedi Order. Palpatine goes to Anakin and Padme's home again that night, where he begins to discuss his fears with them, that the Jedi are plotting to eventually take over the Republic. Padme doesn't believe it, but Anakin's mind has been swayed as he brings up his assignment to spy on his father. Palpatine tells Anakin that what the Jedi have asked him to do is treason, and they simply wish to gain intel on his inner dealings. Anakin agrees, and Padme has no choice but to as well. Anakin had the same nightmares that night of Padme, but this time worse than the original. He decides it's necessary to tell Palpatine, and asks his father for help on what to do. He tells him he can't lose Padme, and can't live without her. Palpatine vows to help Anakin, that he won't let Padme die, and won't let him down. They have a father-son moment, Anakin telling Palpatine about all the stress he's under with Padme, coupled with the Jedi not trusting him, have caused his mind to spiral. The time for Palpatine to reveal everything has arrived. Palpatine tells Anakin he has yet another secret to tell him, and feels like now is the perfect time, since he can help him with Padme. He tells Anakin that in his youth, he learned everything there was to know about the Force, even the nature of the dark side. Anakin took a step back, not expecting to hear this. His father knows the ways of the Force, but then it starts to make sense in his mind. Why didn't he think of this before? Palpatine begins to tell Anakin that he's the reason for his power. It's because of his own Force sensitivity that he passed down onto him. Anakin's world has been turned upside down once again. Palpatine tells Anakin that he was born for a reason, that he believes the Force helped birth him, so they could fight together, change the galaxy together for the greater good. He tells Anakin about his master, Darth Plagueis the Wise, who learned the power to cheat death, but died before he could pass on his teaching to himself. But just now, hearing of Padme's imminent death has ignited the spark again inside of him, and Palpatine vows to not let Padme die. But the only way they can do this is that if they combine their power, only then can they learn the secret to save Padme. He tells Anakin that the Sith are not as the Jedi have portrayed them to be. They're merely passionate, use their emotions, and channel them to control the Force to achieve their goals. Exactly what Anakin does, but in a more abstract way. He begs Anakin to join him, learn to know the dark side of the Force, that they were born to rule the Force together as father and son, and together can bring peace to the galaxy. Anakin doesn't know what to think. He's always been taught by the Jedi that the Sith are evil and are the mortal enemies of the Jedi, that they only think inward and seek to dominate those lesser around them. But this can't be right. Palpatine in his mind is none of those things. There are two things Anakin loves in this galaxy, his father and Padme, and if joining Palpatine and learning the ways of the dark side from him means he can live alongside both, then he will do so. He pledges himself to his father, Darth Sidious, and Anakin is deemed Darth Vader. Palpatine begins telling Anakin the depth of his plans that started decades ago, but begins by telling Anakin that the Jedi are the root of all evil. They allow slavery, tyranny, and crime to run rampant around the galaxy with zero consequences, and they call themselves the Guardians of Peace. They've allowed the galaxy to get to the state it's currently in, and have been in power for long enough. This must change. He tells Anakin that he's dreamed of making the galaxy a better place, but to do this, they must create an empire to maintain peace, justice, security, and freedom in the galaxy, to create a galaxy perfect for his child. He describes his master Plagueis Maul to Anakin and implores that he shouldn't fear the dark side, that it isn't like what the Jedi have told him. But if Anakin is to save Padme from her certain death, then he has to delve deep enough into the dark side to unlock the power to save his wife. He tells Skywalker about Order 66, his secret plan embedded into the inhibitor chips of all the clones, which will ensure the extermination of the traitorous Jedi. He tells Anakin that he will lead this purge against the Jedi Temple, as only through this can he achieve the power in the dark side necessary to save his wife. But this means every Jedi, including his friend Obi-Wan Kenobi, is now an enemy of the Republic, and he must now hunt them down ruthlessly. Anakin nods. He's willing to do anything for his wife and father, and he knows this is for the greater good of the galaxy. Palpatine has successfully convinced them that the Jedi are traitors, plotting to take over, and the root of all that's wrong with the galaxy. Palpatine was a master manipulator.
Yeah, like, why can't he just say, Skywalker, I'm your dad, like in the movie? Nice. But how would Padme feel about an empire? That's the other thing. But again, since, well, Palpatine is his dad, she will have to agree with his dad, right? She will have to agree with Skywalker's dad.
And the Chosen One and his power was now his to command. Order 66 is executed, and together, father and son head towards the temple. They fight ruthlessly alongside the 501st Legion, Anakin cutting down countless Jedi in his wake, as Palpatine watches him with a smirk on his face. Anakin's power in the dark side deepens, as he journeys deeper into its shadowed depth. As with each kill, the man Anakin Skywalker is slowly becoming replaced with Darth Vader. They face off against the council members in the temple, Windu, Shakti, Aegon Kolar, Saiti Tin and Kit Fisto, but the aggression, ferocity, and power of the Sith was too much for them, and they were overpowered, all meeting their demise. No Jedi survived the purge of the temple, and the Sith were successful in the extermination of the Jedi. Afterwards, Palpatine goes to the Senate, where he declares a state of emergency, proclaiming that the Jedi have attempted to take over the Senate and Republic. But Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker exposed their treachery and stopped their tyranny before they could be successful. But Palpatine states that in this transitory period, the Republic will be reorganized into the First Galactic Empire. Roars echo around the Senate chamber, and Palpatine was successful. The grand plan had come to fruition. Meanwhile, shortly after the Senate meeting, Organa meets up with Padme, where he tells her the truth he has learned, that Anakin himself led the purge of the Jedi Temple and eliminated the Jedi inside, including the innocent younglings. Padme steps back in horror. None of this could be true. The Anakin she knows wouldn't kill children in cold blood, but Organa assures her that it's the truth, and Organa leaves Padme with some thinking to do. Anakin came home to Padme shortly after, and she questioned Anakin on everything Organa had said, but simply rebutted, proclaiming that Organa was attempting to turn her against him, that he's against the formation of the Empire by Palpatine and himself, and that he's trying to get her on his side. But Padme looks Anakin directly in his eyes and asks him straight if he killed children in cold blood. Anakin breaks her gaze, stuttering over his words, until he tells Padme that it was necessary, that the Jedi are the enemy. Padme covers her mouth with her hand and ushers for Anakin to leave, as she can't bear to look at him. The man she knew and loved would never do such a thing. Anakin complies and gives Padme some space for the moment, as he and Palpatine have a lot to do in the meantime in establishing their empire. But she immediately contacts Organa again, telling him that she's not safe and must escape off the planet immediately. Organa organizes transport later that night, and she discreetly goes to his landing platform, where she meets with Bail. As she says her goodbyes and goes to leave, Anakin and Palpatine enter from behind the ship. Both Padme and Organa step back in shock. Palpatine tells Anakin that he's sorry, that he didn't want it to be true, but what his spies reported was correct. Padme was attempting to flee with his child. Anakin has a shocked look on his face, and Padme goes into panic mode, begins screaming at Anakin that Palpatine is a Sith, and the very man he was destined to defeat, that he's manipulated him and turned him against everything he's ever stood for. But Anakin stands there, heartbroken, not listening to anything she's saying, and can't believe Padme was attempting to leave him. Palpatine whispers in his ear, telling Anakin that even after everything he's done for her, she rewards him by what? Turning her back on him. He tells Skywalker that he deserves better and offers to help him find this. Anakin nods, the dark side having consumed his soul with all the killing he's done, and is too far gone. Anakin begins walking forward, but Organa interrupts them, telling the both of them that it's not illegal for Padme to leave and that she's done nothing wrong. But Palpatine tells Organa that he's just as guilty as Padme and cracks his neck with the Force. Padme's left there frozen, with her friend lying dead next to her, as Anakin carries her away, detaining her in one of Palpatine's apartments. Shortly after, Anakin and Palpatine were challenged by Yoda and Obi-Wan, who had returned to get revenge on the Sith. But in the state Anakin was in, he could not be defeated.
Yeah, cause I'm at episode 3. Anakin was just slowly being into the Sith Lord Vader, but Obi-Wan come down on Mustafar, so Vader couldn't get his full power, and also limited because he was now put into the mechanical suit. After Kenobi left him, Skywalker the burn on Mustafar. But without his suit, he's more powerful now. And far more stronger than Master Yoda. Let's do a round 2.
Together, Palpatine and Anakin bested the two Jedi. Anakin cemented his turn to the dark side by cutting down his best friend and pseudo-father, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and there was no return for the Chosen One. She was held there until she gave birth. She saw Anakin a couple of times, attempting to explain to him that everything was Palpatine's doing, but there was no turning a son against the father, and the bond between Anakin and Palpatine was stronger than Anakin and Padme, especially after he'd seen her attempt to leave. In Padme's mind, Anakin was dead, and she no longer recognized the man who stared back at her. His eyes no longer glistened the blue lake of Naboo, but rather the fiery yellow lakes of Mustafar. After she gave birth to the twins, Luke and Leia, Anakin in his mind began to forget about Padme, as now his father and kids were all he needed in his life. Palpatine visits Padme one day and gloats how he successfully turned Anakin to his side, and he will forever be his to control. He even reveals to Padme that he made it all up, that he isn't his real father, which leaves Padme speechless. She feels that somewhere along the line she failed, that she could have prevented all of this, but she passes away shortly after, guilty of losing Anakin and her children. Too much for her soul. Together, Anakin and Palpatine established the dominance of their empire. Anakin's mind had become corrupted by the dark side, but in his mind, he was happy. He had complete control of the galaxy alongside his father, who would rule with him together, and his children who he loved with all his heart. Palpatine continued to teach Anakin everything he knew about the dark side, and the Chosen One's power skyrocketed. It took only a year or so until his power exceeded Palpatine, and he would continue to become stronger. Palpatine couldn't believe the monster he had created, and couldn't believe a being could become that strong in the Force. He could stop lightsabers with his bare hands, cause anything to burst in flames just by looking at it, and could even fly for short periods of time. The Sith's victory was assured. No one could ever oppose them, or so they thought. The Force worked in balance. For a being as strong as Anakin in the dark, there had to be a counter in the light, and although for Palpatine, the Sith victory seemed assured, in time, a challenger would reveal themselves. If you enjoyed this video, you have to watch What If Anakin Killed Palpatine animation, or What If the Jedi Council Prepared for Order 66. Please continue to leave your comments below. I love reading and replying to you all. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.
Yeah, after he said that, like, the end of that, especially a new challenger to Palpatine and Vader, I'm looking forward to seeing a part 2 to this. Like, who will be, like, the new challengers to fight Lord Vader and Palpatine. I don't know if he's gonna make a part 2 to this, but if he does make a part 2, I'm looking forward to seeing the part 2. I'll make a reaction to it when it comes out. Anyway, bye for now. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Again, happy Pride Month, everybody. And I'll see you next time. Bye. Okay, now I'm gonna go. Bye.